The name James Bond is one of the most recognizable in all of fiction, with a universe spanning books, movies, and video games starting all the way back in 1953. The first novels by Ian Fleming were a hit right away, and after Sean Connery's legendary portrayal of the character in film, Bond James Bond became a household name. The films quickly became the flagship of the franchise, with 7 different actors taking up the live-action mantle from 1962 to 2021, and the role became one of the most sought after in the world. Gamers got a massive hit in 1997 with GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64, then video game licensing transferred from Rare to EA to Activision before MGM revoked the license in 2013 due to poor sales. After a 7-year silence, Hitman developer IO Interactive announced a new James Bond video game with a fresh origin story featuring Bond's early days as an MI6 recruit. 007 First Light released May 27, 2026 on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC through Steam and Epic. I played on PS5 Pro, and after 21 hours in-game, here's my review of 007 First Light. Any actor who attempts to play Bond in this day and age already has big shoes to fill, and doing an origin story with the character is even more daunting. Luckily, Patrick Gibson does an excellent job playing a young, cocky Bond in training, and the script is full of classic James Bond moments that fans will love. The story takes us through Bond's 00 training and selection process before things go horribly wrong, and 007 is forced to earn his title a little bit earlier than he thought. The voice cast is fantastic, with standout performances from Lenny James, Keira Lester, and the man himself, Patrick Gibson, as James Bond. The graphics are excellent, characters look very good in cutscenes, and the game ran smoothly with only a couple minor graphical bugs on PS5 Pro. I did have 2 game crashes early on, but after a patch it never happened again, and the only bugs I noticed were non-game breaking and usually kind of funny. There is an always online feature. It's totally optional, but if you have it on, be prepared to have it disconnect on you and interrupt your gameplay at least once a session. You play 10 main missions, starting with James Bond being recruited, training, and meeting friends in the 00 program, and finally culminating in a classic Bond villain showdown. The banter between James and his supporting characters is fantastic. Seeing him go through training, get into trouble, and learn in the field was one of the best parts of the game, and the story overall had some great moments. You'll meet classic Bond characters like M, Q, and Moneypenny, and the story is full of Easter eggs, callbacks, and little details from the films and novels. This is a different take on James Bond than we're used to seeing in film. He's young and unproven in the game, and it's a very interesting angle on a well-known character. 007 First Light does a great job of retaining the spirit of the James Bond films. We get a suave, cocky Bond with gadgets, cars, suits, sex, and a ton of cool guy riz. The minor bugs and online connections didn't detract much from the experience at all, and while the story itself is pretty straightforward, the character relationships are very deep and meaningful. Now let's talk about the gameplay. IO Interactive's signature use of stealth and infiltration from the Hitman games is definitely present in 007, but it's mixed with more engaging melee and shooting combat. Throughout the game, Bond wanting to accomplish his objectives in creative ways, using distractions, gadgets, and his fists to reach his goal. On the surface, stealth is a bit simple, but the inclusion of the Q gadgets and the bluff mechanic give it a much more unique vibe. You can use your Q lens to find points of interest and discover new paths, then unleash an arsenal of gadgets like smoke bombs, a flashbang mine, and the classic laser watch. Bond can also try to talk his way into and out of situations by bluffing, which uses instinct gained by finding clues and taking out enemies. Bluffing can be used to get yourself out of a sticky situation after failing stealth, and sometimes you can even talk your way right through to your objective without touching anyone. Hand-to-hand combat is always an option too, and the melee controls are actually a bit more involved than you may think. There's the standard punches and kicks, but you can also grab and throw enemies into each other, stun them with your gadgets, or even break bottles on their faces. The combat is very fluid and fun. It's a great mixture of melee, gadgets, and gunfighting that surprised me after expecting more Hitman combat from the same developers. This version of James Bond doesn't have his license to kill yet, so shooting is only permitted when being shot at first and is used as a last resort. You can shoot an enemy's legs to stun them, or their hands to disarm them, then bum rush them and grab their gun out of the air, which felt really cool to do. The shooting feels good, but the aim assist is pretty crazy. A lot of times it felt like it wasn't actually me pulling off some of those headshots. Tactical Simulation Mode is an arcade-style challenge section with stealth and combat missions for a bit more content separate from the story. They're fun to play, but there just isn't a ton of content there, and you'll end up playing through it all in just a couple hours. There's a few driving sections that I was really excited for as a fan of James Bond car chases, but they were all really short, and I just wish there was more there. The game's mechanics come together very well and make for a great experience, but despite having a few branching options and story missions, there just isn't quite as much replayability as I wanted. IO Interactive has teased more content coming in Tactical Simulation Mode, so hopefully there'll be more soon, but overall, the shooting, melee, and gadgets are a very fun and well done gameplay combo. 007 First Light is available on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC through Steam or Epic for $69.99. The story took me about 18 hours, and there's some good arcade-style extra content that'll keep you entertained for a bit longer. After giving a vodka martini a pour, I'll give this a score from 1 to 4. On the revolutionary Dinkus 4-star 4-star scale, 007 First Light gets 3 out of 4 stars. The game's mechanics and story are top-notch, and the graphics look incredible, but there just isn't quite enough replayability to justify spending full price on this one. Still, if you're a casual fan of James Bond, this is a great and fresh new take on the character that definitely deserves a playthrough. Buy this game, but make sure it's on sale.